Shalom, welcome. This is Avraham Shira, live from Yeshiva Nar Shalom in Jerusalem. The Torah that we have in front of us today is like one of the most important Torahs you could ever learn if you're a single person. I feel like in our generation there's a curse on getting married. There's so many obstacles and so many difficulties that people have to face to get married. And even once you do get married, if you're lucky enough, it's even harder to stay married. So Rebbe Nachman gives us in Torah, Pei Zion, a look at what it really takes. Now he begins the Torah by telling us that the secret of the intentions of the month of Elul are based on the verse Anotein Derech Bayam, that he gives a path in the sea. Now the sea, of course, is the sea of this life, the sea of the soul without direction. And we need a path in the sea to get to our goal. And the path, he tells us, of course, is similar to the path to wisdom. It's also the path to Jerusalem, that every Jew comes to Jerusalem to the time of the festivals, especially the month of Elul, which is the month of Tishrei, leading to the month of Tishrei. So the month of Elul is the first letters of the verse, Ani ledodi v'dodi li, I am for my beloved, and my beloved is for me. And of course, this statement by King Solomon was really speaking about God and the Jewish people, and about the Shekhinah and the Tzaddikim, that there is this male-female relationship between all levels of creation, between the Creator and all creation, between the Creator and the Jewish people, between the Torah and the Jewish people, between man and woman. So it's happening at all levels at once. And so when we look inside this Torah, we see that an amazing thing, that the path to Jerusalem, to the Holy Temple, is also the path to find your woman, if you're a man. Now this Torah is written by a man, and it assumes that the way things were 200 years ago, that a man would go out, he was obliged by the Torah to get married. Now in our generation, it's not always so clear. Sometimes women go out to get married, sometimes the men do the pursuing, sometimes women do the pursuing. But the classic paradigm that we were born into is that the man is commanded by God to find a wife and to raise a family and to have children, etc. Now, of course, that might look chauvinistic, it might look male-centric, but that's okay, because certainly there's plenty of men that are more feminine, and there's certainly a lot of women that are masculine, and that's okay too. The idea is that people should not be alone, and that people should contribute to the human race with holy children and good children that are going to fix this place and make it better. And I look at the previous generations and I look at my children and I say they're definitely making it better. And I hope we're making it better than the previous generations. So far we've avoided a world war, so that's good. But nonetheless, really, we see that humanity is evolving, and we're part of that. And part of that evolution is having children and raising them properly and fixing what we need to fix. And each generation fixes a part of the previous generation's issues, and this is how we grow. So whether you're religious or not religious, Jewish or not Jewish, it doesn't matter. We're contributing to the improvement and restoration of the divine image of humanity on this planet. Okay, but to do this, we need this derech, anotein b'derech yam, right? That we have this way through the sea. Now he says that, an interesting thing, he says that if a man does not draw the lines of purity, of responsibility, of sexual morality, then a woman will not be inspired to do so either. And that King Solomon said that a woman's way will be she's easily seduced, she's easily taken in by a handsome guy, a clever guy. There's always somebody else that looks better. And so it's a man's job to set the standard of the family, and this of course begins with purity, and all purity begins with sexual purity. And so it's a hard sale in our generation, right? People are kind of a little bit more loose than they used to be. I think in terms of the morals, the standards that we have, in terms of premarital sex, in terms of loyalty to our spouses and to our mates, and this is all part of this kind of easing of the borders of responsibility, the easing of the definitions that we've been passed down to us for thousands of years. Okay, with all of that said, how do we fix it and how do we find the true one? So the Rebbe brings the famous verse from King Solomon as well. Im zacha aseh lo ezer kenegdo. If a man merits, his wife will be his helper. And if he doesn't merit, she will be kenegdo. So the Rebbe explains the verse very simply. He splits the two words. He says, Im zacha aseh lo ezer, that his wife will be a helper. Now, the helper means that she agrees with him, that she recognizes his will as being something important and worthwhile and virtuous, that she wants to be part of, that she supports. And if he's no zacha, aseh lo kenegdo, she'll be against him. And so a person can easily actually miss out on his true other half. How? By not having the spiritual purity to attract his true other half. In other words, if a person's impure, he's not going to attract the very root of his soul. And we are born hermaphrodite. We've talked about this in our classes on Patreon, on YouTube, etc. That every human soul is really a male-female composite. When they come in this world, the male and the female split. They go on their journey and their adventure, and the goal is to meet them and join up and continue the process of bringing new souls in the world. Now, if a person is on the level, if he merits, he will attract that true other half. But if he's playing around and he's not serious and he's taking things for granted and he takes advantage of situations and all the things we know that are going on out there, then he's not going to attract his true other half, because his true other half is his highest self. It's not your lowest self. And so, and the rabbis even go on to say that a person has 10 different levels of other half. That depending on what level you're at on the ladder, that's the one you will attract. So the only way we can expect to really meet our true other half and to marry them and to be with them and to stay with them for 50 years, at least, it can go longer. You see these couples that are 100 years old and they're making a wedding anniversary, 80 years together. It's amazing. There's no distinction between them anymore. They're so one together. And it's really inspiring, I think, because it's hard work. But it's the work that pays off. It's the work. I work with couples all the time in therapy, and they get divorced, and all they do is lose the good points of the marriage, and they still have to take care of the kids, and they still have to communicate. They still have to do all the hard work of being married without marriage. So divorce is not an option. The option is to work on ourselves and to be our highest selves, and to go according to what we know is really the best that we can be. And so when we do that, then we attract that true other half. So it starts with a man, and of course that might sound chauvinistic as well. But listen, everybody has to take responsibility for who they are, whether you're a man or a woman. But in the Kabbalistic structure of things, the man is the one who brings the energy to the woman. We see this in the very sexual act. We see this in the idea of a man working to bring home money. We see this in the idea of a leader guiding his people. There has to be someone who sets an agenda and a direction. And if the man has a Torah and the man has a relationship with God, then a woman will be interested in that type of person. Now, if she's not interested in such a relationship with God, then such a guy will bore her. And she'll go look off for a fun partner, and yalla. And that's the way it goes. So, but the man has to be the one who initiates that level of holiness, and be the one who decides, I'm not going to do anything before I get married. I'm going to protect myself. I'm going to guard my purity for the sake of the sanctity of the relationship I want to build. Now, I cannot tell God I want to have a holy, sanctified relationship with a woman, but, it's that but that gets you every time. That's the one that says, but, before I get married, it's okay to play around. I see thousands, millions of people are doing this every day. And religious people, non-religious people, doesn't matter how you define yourself, how you're religious one day and you're not the next, or you're religious in the morning and at night you forget. It doesn't matter. We cannot send contradictory messages to heaven and expect blessing. We have to send consistent messages to God to expect that blessing. And He promises we fulfill our part of the bargain, He does His. And so the Rebbe goes on to tell us that this pasuk, listen to this pasuk, Elu right, is the Rosh Tevot. It's the first letters of the verse. Ve'im lo tovea isha lelechet acharecha. That if the woman does not want to go after you. Okay, now this is a very interesting idea because it has to do with Avraham Avinu sent his servant Eliezer to find his son Yitzhak a wife, who was, of course, Rivka Imenu. It's one of the primordial stories of creation when the father sends out his trusted man to go find a wife in his home country, and that was, of course, Rivka, and Eliezer went to get her. But Avraham commanded him with these special words. And this is why we say the Torah is holy, because the words contain multitudes of meanings. And it's that multiplicity of meaning that is God's trademark. That's his signature. And he says, Im toveh, that if the woman wants to go with you, the first letters of this verse, right, are Aleph, Lamed, right? And then there's a skip of words, Tovei Aisha, and then Lamed Aleph, Lelechet Acharecha. So you see there's Aleph Lamed in the beginning of the verse, and then Vav Lamed at the end of the verse. Of course, that spells out the word Elul. And the two words in the middle between those letters, the first letters are Tovei Aisha, Taf Hey. And what does Taf Hey stand for? The Rebbe says, Toveh ha'isha, that the woman wants. So this idea of a woman wanting is essential to the fabric of creation. And throughout history, I think everybody can pretty well agree that women have held things together in a lot of ways, right? You look at the majority of tyrants and totalitarian leaders, they weren't women. You look at the majority of women who raise families without husband, we don't have to look far in the statistics. So if the Im Tovah, if the Isha wants, when does it happen? In Elul. And this is the idea of the Hashem hu basadeh, that God is in the field, that God comes down to us to receive our prayers. So for all the single people, it's just, it hurts to see so many good people that don't have their other half, their true other half. And he's telling us right here that we have to simply elevate ourselves to that true self, to that place that of purity and sexual consistency of commitment to a level that even if we feel we're not at that level, well, okay, then I need to get to that level. And I hear so many people that make excuses, but I'm lonely, but I'm sad, but I work in a bar, I work in a restaurant, I'm surrounded by men and women all the time that are always having fun and drinking. These excuses don't hold water if I want the higher level. Well, if I want the lower level, then you can be like, you can look around and you don't need much description of that. So really, it's something that I learned 30 years ago in Los Angeles, which is like the hardest place in the world to try to develop, this type of purity and to protect myself from promiscuity. In Los Angeles, it's outrageous over there. And I saw that if I wasn't strong and I didn't make strong boundaries, then I was finished. And I remember, when a woman gives you that eye, when a man gives you that look, you have to set the line right away. And I just put on my kippah and the look changed. And I grew my beard, the look changed. I wore tzitzit, the look changed. And so on and so forth. All the mitzvot were there to protect us, that sanctity that we have within us. But we have to express it outside. And once we do, all of a sudden, the vibe is different. And you walk into a bar and the women aren't looking at you anymore. And you walk into a club and the guys aren't looking at you. Because you're setting a tone and an energy field around you. And it's that energy field that will guide you to your true other half. And of course, there's other things we have to fix. And of course, that we've been hurt and we've got to fix those pain and the suffering and the scars that we carry from other relationships. But once we fix those scars, which is part of what therapy is about, is to learn techniques to go inside and heal the heart, that I can trust again, that I can trust the other gender, that I can trust myself, and that I uphold my own standards. Then we have this true self-esteem, is built out of keeping our boundaries. When I have true self-esteem, I can tell you what I do, and what I don't do. I'm not ashamed anymore. And when I'm not ashamed, I'm my true self. And when I'm my true self, I'm going to attract the other half. So it really is one step after another. And the Rebbe is, looking 200 years into the future, into our generation, saying, what's happening here? So many great people, they're 40 and 50 years old, and they've never been married, and like the clock is ticking. And certainly the clock ticks on men and women nowadays. Or as I like to tell the guys, their shelf life is going down, year after year. I've been teaching guys in here 25 years, and a lot of them have been around for 10 or 15 years, and they're still single. Like, what are you looking for? What are you waiting for? So we can't write ourselves that blank check that, well, God will take care of it. No, I got to do the work. God will take care of it when I create the vessel. He'll send the light. And your light is out there, whether it's a he or a she, she's here, she's there, he's there when we do the work. And all I got to do is say, you know what? I'm going to protect myself until I get married. I'm going to take on a new level. And so this is the message that will change everything. And it'll change our service, it'll change the way we pray, it'll change the way we learn, it'll give pleasure to everything else we do. And so I want to bless all of us for this level of keeping the covenant and guarding ourselves to the highest level that we deserve, because our divine soul really is a very precious thing. It's the most precious thing in the universe, is a human soul. So we should all be blessed with that path in the sea, the path through the chaos to get to that island of peace, which is your true other half. God bless all of you. Have a great day. We'll see you again on Facebook, on Patreon, on YouTube. And we've got more coming out all the time. We're publishing a new poem this week, a beautiful poem set up by Ariel, Avraham, and myself. And I think there's some beauty in there that is worth it for everybody to share. God bless.